We're back on the Tour de Ski and we stay in Lenzerheide for a third day, and cracking conditions yet again. It's been a little bit warmer than we were expecting, to be honest, plus temperatures yesterday. It was about 1.6 on the red side of the thermometer when the women went off this morning. And a tough course. They had a 3.3 kilometre loop. The men have a 3.75, but instead of going around 3 times, they're going around 4 times. So they get the short straw yet again. Fancy that on New Year's Day. Happy New Year if you missed the women's race earlier on. I think we're in for some cracking skiing over the next week or so. The Tour de Ski actually finishes next Sunday. And once we've finished here in Lenzerheide, we go to Oberstdorf and then to Val di Fiemme for the last 2 stages. Yesterday was all about classic style, the men's distance, 15 kilometres. Well, big crowds turning out, largely due to the success of Laurien van der Graaf, who won the sprint on the first day of the Tour. I think the locals excited that they could have some more success. Polteranen, Mike, he's a brilliant classic skier and he didn't let us down yesterday.
He did not. He went early though, that 27 bib number. He was there for everybody to chase down. Not many got him, just one.
Martin Jonsrud Sundby hasn't won so far this season. Remember, he was the overall Tour winner last year, and Sundby still without a win. Only 12.5 off the mark set by Polteranen, but better was still to come, and it was to come from Dario Cologna. How good to see him getting on top of the podium. First time he's ever done it in Switzerland. That's incredible when you consider he's had 22 wins.
It is incredible, and definitely an advantage, that bib 62. And Polteranen was gutted to lose by 0.6 of a second.
Bolshinov was the only one of the big names starting after, but the youngster from Russia, I think, starting to tire a little. Missed out on the podium only by a slim margin. He's been incredibly consistent this year. I wonder whether we should keep an eye on him for today.
Well, Bolshinov, there he is. He's so competitive. He's so disappointed not to make the podium. I think we'll see something special from Bolshinov today.
And what will we see from Ustiakov? He missed out by a fair margin, but is still the Tour leader. He's got 1.6 seconds over Dario Cologna, who's leapfrogged up into second place.
Crowd, and yeah, it's so nice to win after 2 years. I think it's a big win for me. It's better than expected. I hope to be in the front, of course, but after 2 stages, so close behind Ustiakov, it's also a good position for tomorrow. I think I can do again a good race, and yeah, the moment I'm just very happy and enjoy this day.
Well, hopefully he didn't enjoy it too much. Not a lot of alcohol consumed by the athletes last night, most of them trying to get to bed before the fireworks started, because they've got a tough day coming up today. It's 15 kilometres again, but it's a pursuit, so it will be Ustiakov who goes first for Russia, trying to hang on to the lead. Well, what a festival of skiing we've had here in Lenzerheide, and I must say, since the Tour has started to use Swiss resorts, no one has regretted the move. And we always get good fans. We all get hundreds of cowbells, creating a slightly unique atmosphere. But over the last couple of days, we've had some cracking racing as well. And of course, we had the women's race earlier on today. They had a 10 kilometres to ski after their 10-kilometre classic yesterday. And it was Ingvild Østberg who started first with a lead of 32 seconds. Jessie Diggins, third place in the 10-kilometre yesterday, was back in action today, trying to chase down the 2 Norwegians. Heidi Weng, the winner of the Tour last year, in second place in the overall standings after 2 stages, just as she was 12 months ago. And Østberg led the Tour this time last year. She's leading once again and trying to hold on to that lead. A 32-second advantage over Weng, a 1 minute 4 second advantage over Jessie Diggins of the United States. And the same 3 on the podium yesterday as they were today. So great news for Usberg, but she's lost nothing, she's gained nothing. Do you think she would have settled for that before today's race?
I think she would have. Yesterday, she's got great little interviews, but she's not the most positive. She thought she might be caught today. Now she goes into the day's rest and still wearing the yellow.
Just a few minutes, 5.5 minutes or so to go before the start of the men's 15K. Chance to give us a look at the standings as we are after two stages. Ustiakov, Colonia, 1.6 seconds apart. Sundby making a bit of a move yesterday. Is he still a threat, or do you think he gave away too much on the first day of sprinting?
He lost a lot in the first day, but he gained by not going round that track, that 1.5, too many times. But I think what we saw yesterday and his positive spirit later after the race, I think he's got his confidence back, and that's a real danger for the rest of the field. Andrew Musgrave there, 26, but still in contention. Only, what, 40 seconds or so up to the top 15 in the Tour, and I'm sure that's what he'll be gunning for today.
Yeah, Musgrave last year after two stages was 7th position, only a minute 14, I think it was, behind the leaders. He now finds himself down in 20th, 1:47 adrift. And today, I guess, is slightly better for him because it's just a freestyle race. Last year, this stage was a skiathlon, so 10 classic, 10 free.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, every racer, every athlete's going to have at least one bad day, be it technical or waxing issues. And I think it's good for Muzzy to get yesterday out of the way, the 15 classic, maybe not his favourite.
Bolshinov lying third in the Tour at the moment, 12.7 seconds down. He's just ahead of Poltaranin and still has an advantage of 27 seconds or so over Sundby. Dario Colonia has flown up into second position after a brilliant ski yesterday. He picked up the 15 bonus seconds for winning and, of course, produced the fastest time. Ustiakov looked a little bit ragged yesterday, Mike, but the one stage that he suffered in last year was a classic, similar to yesterday. If anyone can come back from a bad day, it's him.
It is. He's got a strong mind. He did have to push so hard on day one, though, in the sprint races, and that is a factor. It's there. It's in your legs all the time.
Now, it was a 5-kilometre loop yesterday. Today, 4 times round, a 3.75, which means they have more climbs, but the first climb isn't quite as stiff as it was yesterday, and a slightly harder second climb for the men than we saw for the women.
Well, that's right. Look up at interval 2 there, where we'll see the split timing. They're rising further up that climb, so a slightly tougher course, and I think it's a very testing course. We heard Usberg alluding to the fact that it's really, really hard going out there with the new powder snow as well.
Yeah, so we've got fresh snow, we've got positive temperatures, so there's a little bit more moisture in the snow than they'd like. And as you pointed out, Mike, they've done a lot of skiing over the last 2 years on artificial snow, which tends to be harder grains, and it stays icy with warmer temperatures.
Very much. It's aerated. You've got these big man-made, machine-made grains. The ski slide a little faster. It's in a sense, faster tempo skiing.
You might have picked up on Andy Musgrave in 26th position, and 1:47 off the pace of the leaders at the start of today. He's hoping, and the British team with Roy Young in charge, hoping that he can work his way all the way up into 15th. That would be a major achievement. Getting into the top 20 would be good. And last year in the Tour de Ski, Andrew Musgrave finished 19th overall, so he certainly wants to try and better that.
Yes, I think we'll see him bettering that. We saw just before Christmas that fantastic podium position in a 15-kilometre freestyle over in Toblach. That was a great day for Muzzy and a confidence builder.
Ustiakov has, I was going to say 2 big ears, but he's the hare today. He is the one that everyone else is chasing, and Dario Colonia starts close enough behind, just to nip in behind the Russian. Ustiakov's tactics are going to be very interesting, Mike. Great to see Colonia going well. He's building, obviously with February in mind. But, you know, after yesterday's success, maybe he's thinking a 4th Tour de Ski title. How nice would that be?
Do you know, and wouldn't that be lovely? 2009, 2011, 2012, it's been some time. And in fact, yesterday's performance, yesterday's win, that was the first time since, what, January 2015, when he last won a race.
Yeah, he's had a couple of years without. He's had a lot of injury problems over the years. We all know about the ankle injury he suffered just before the last Olympic Games. He hasn't had those issues this time around, so maybe he can add to his Olympic tally of golds. Number 8, as you might recognise, that's Alexei Shavotkin, of course, in the new Russian colours, and Pellegrino wearing the black bib as the sprint tour leader after his successes in the first stage. Plenty of Norwegians starting in the top 15, but it has not been the best tour for the Norwegians so far. Their best place skier down in 6th place, that's Sundby. They've got Holland in 10, Iversen in 13, they've got Tonseth in 14, and then we got down to 21 to find Deerhout, whereas we'd normally be expecting to see at least 3 Norwegians in the top 10. That's not the case this year, and to be honest, that's pretty healthy for the sport. Jean-Marc Gaillard wearing 19. You know, Jean-Marc Gaillard is an outstanding athlete, Mike. Just trying to think where he stood last year. I think he was in about 11th place after the second stage last year, but he made ground on stage 3, got himself up into the top 10. 15 is Jonas Baumann of Switzerland. The Swiss having a bit of a resurgence in terms of their cross-country skiers.
Very much just brings back memories of the mid-80s when they were at their best. Well, pressure out the front.
So away we go, and Colonia has no choice but to try and chase down Ustiakov. Ustiakov will go very, very hard. In fact, he's absolutely blasted out of the stadium, knowing that he has superior sprint speed to Dario Colonia. Bolshinov is in no man's land. There's a 10-second gap behind the young Russian, and then Alexei Polteranin, who's not really a freestyle skier. I know he's better this year, but I can't see him being good enough to hold on to the top 3. Hakkela goes 5, Sundby goes 6 for Norway, the margin 39 seconds, and Levo Niskanen, the first of the Finns, away in 7th place at 46 seconds.
Well, Ustiakov went out with intent, and Sundby is going out with even more intent. Ustiakov, interesting, clearly there's not any strategy in his mind. It's an all-out attack over 15 kilometers.
Yeah, Sundby 12 seconds behind Hakkela. He's a long, long way down, 27 seconds down on Alexander Bolshinov, who started in 3rd place. But 1 or 2 athletes for Sundby to shoot at. Hakkela certainly, Polteranin undoubtedly. Iversen is away. Tonseth, Jonas Baumann goes for Switzerland at 1:11. Marcus Hellner starts for Sweden at 1:18. And then we go down to Volsentseth of Russia starting 18. Gaillard of France 19. Rastelli of Italy 20. Deerhout, Larkov, Rickardson all waiting to go. And then perhaps the man who's going to produce the fastest time of all, Maurice Magnificat, who was magnificent in Ruka, and he did the same again in Davos. He loves 15-kilometer freestyle.
Interesting, isn't it? Just the mindset that he's chasing. He's chasing people down, and yeah, Magnificat at so many times in the pursuit has had the fastest time. And I think with Muzzy just, 10 seconds behind Magnificat, it doesn't sound much. If he could bridge that gap, that would be luxury to try and ride in the slipstream.
And that's exactly what Colonia is trying to do, and he'll stay there as long as he can. Now, should these two stay together all the way to Val di Fiemme, Mike, in terms of their position in the Tour, who would you fancy to win it if they start the Alpe d'Huez together?
Well, I tell you what, the way that Colonia expected that he could win in Davos. He didn't. He came 4th then, but he's beginning to believe in himself, and I wouldn't put it past Colonia to have a real challenge on that final day.
Yeah, it'd be a fantastic situation, especially if Sundby could join them, and we have a 3-way fight up the Alpe d'Huez. It's often the foregone conclusion as to what's going to happen on that climb. It'd be nice to have a season when that is not the case. Polteranin has lost a little bit of ground to Ristomati Hakkela.
Interesting to see Sundby's time. Well, I thought he might have gone out. He did go out fast from the gun, but he's lost a good handful of seconds or more.
He started at 39. He's now at 46, so that's not good news for Sundby, but it might be a case of pacing. Remember, 4 times round this course, that's 8 brutal climbs that they've got to complete. And there are very few men that can go 100% for that sort of distance.
And you know, Patrick, we saw in the women's race, Usberg really thrashed this first kilometre. Yes, it's all climbing from the stadium. She suffered, she had a dip in her performance, but came back later. And Sundby, I think, maybe he's doing the sensible pacing up that first climb. Another 14 Ks to go.
Ustiakov has gone very hard as they come back through the stadium, and Dario Colonia, is he going to do a little bit of the work out front? He wants to keep the speed up. He does not want to give the likes of Bolshinov and Sundby a chance of closing down the gap. And that's interesting to see. I'm just wondering whether that's a reaction to the support from the crowd, Mike.
Yeah, possibly, and I think this is wise. I think it's far wiser, these two at the front, Ustiakov, Colonia, they work together, share the lead, because they just don't want the pack to close them down. It's to their advantage to pick up those wonderful 15 seconds bonus to win this one, 10-second bonus for second place.
Well, we're going to see a lot of these two guys as we go around. We'll try and let you know who's producing the fastest time out on the snow. Both of us slightly surprised by the fastest skier this morning, Teresa Stadlober, producing a ski time some 20 seconds quicker than Ingvild Usberg, which was out of the blue.
It was. I've just seen on the start list her brother, Stadlober, Louis Stadlober, bib 73. He's decided not to start.
Decided he couldn't match his sister.
And Curtin Pearl, he's also decided on the start sheet not to take part.
But not as many withdrawals this year as we had last year. In total, 46 of the field dropping out and only 40 finishing. So over 50% of the athletes pulling out of the tour at some stage last year. And you mentioned this morning, Mike, there needs to be an incentive to stay on the tour. We need to have a sprint later on in the tour so the sprinters stay with us, and there needs to be a bonus, a financial bonus for everyone who finishes.
Do you know, I think so. It's to keep it alive. Yes, we dropped down to 40 from what, in 97 I think it was last year. A big drop off. The sprinters only coming for day one sometimes and surviving through to day 4, which will be this year in Oberhof.
Well, this is the second big climb.
Oberstdorf, sorry.
Ustiakov moving back into the front, 2.1 kilometers gone. They've got another 1.65 to go before they complete lap number 1, and that's probably exactly what Bolshinov is thinking. My goodness, 3 more times round when I get to the top of this one.
He's lost 5 seconds, but boy, he's so efficient. His movements are so easy on his skating. He's Bolshinov. Is he pacing it, or is he suffering? I think he might well be suffering.
Polteranen started 22 off Ustiakov, and as you can see, he's given away over 10 seconds. But we were expecting that. Hackler hasn't really made an impression. He started 27 behind. Sundby we're keeping an eye on, but it's number 10, which is Hans-Christer Holland, who lost a lot of ground later on in the tour last year. Finished 21st overall, but he was still up in the top 17 at the end of stage 3. Holland is now just 55 behind, having started 54, so he's skiing at the same speed as Ustiakov.
Just looking at the times, I wonder if there'll be any teamwork when Holland, I expect him that he'll catch Sundby. I wonder if Sundby's taking an easy start to try and get team assistance by Holland, or possibly further back, Ibbotson, Tunseth.
Not a bad start from Pellegrino either. Started 11th, he's still in 11th and less than a minute behind. He's actually skied at exactly the same speed as Ustiakov. Any other of the later start numbers making ground?
Just trying to have a look for Muzzy, see how he started. I would imagine it will be fast. Muzzy, yes, to 1 kilometre, he's taken 5 seconds out of the leaders, and they're setting the fastest time.
Bolshinov was 17.9 behind last time we saw, so he's descending the hills well. And that's good news for the youngster. Still nothing between 1 and 2. Ustiakov, Colonia glued together. They could pass a piece of Gruyere between them. 4-kilo block of cheese for the 3 podium finishers today. Plus the fastest skier from the Continental Cup. That's something that's new. They get a financial bonus, plus a lump of cheese to keep them going.
Nibbling. Just noticed Muzzy, Andrew Musgraves, lost 5 seconds from the 1 kilometre to the 2.1, which is the easier part of the track, and a lot of the descents in that section. Lonely race out on your own there, De Fabiani. More a classic skier than a freestyle.
1:11 for the Italian, having started 58. Now, number 16 coming through is Marcus Hellner. You might recognise him. He's taken 7 seconds out of Jonas Baumann already. And at 1:21, Marcus Hellner has only lost 3 seconds to Ustiagov and Dario Colonia. I think by my calculations, Holland and Colonia are the 2 fastest skiers out there. Holland's moved up into 6th position, Mike, and is now 52 behind, having started 54.5. So he's pretty much on a level pegging with Dario Colonia. Well, there has been a slight development. You might have just picked it up before we went for the commercial break. Dario Colonia has made an effort to break away from Ustiagov, and he made the initial move on the downhill section approaching the stadium. Now he's got to keep applying the screw. The margin of 25 metres is significant, but it's a question of whether Dario Colonia can keep this going. It's a long, long way. 4.7 completed. He's still got over 10 kilometres to go, and it's not easy to shake off Ustiagov.
I'll tell you what, that's a brave move, Patrick, isn't it? To go with 10 kilometres, to break away with 10 kilometres to go. And now it's going to be a very lonely race for Dario out the front. So
a 7.3 second margin, and Bolshinov at 20. He started 12. So we'll keep an eye on those margins. We still think, Mike, that Holland of Norway is the quickest man out on this track. He started 10. He's now got a long train of athletes behind him. It's going to be interesting to see whether Holland keeps that pace and actually breaks away, starts to chase down Polteranen and Bolshinov.
Certainly a very, very strong start. I thought maybe he was wanting to bridge the gap to help Sundby, but Sundby not really looking that strong at the moment. There's Holland second behind Alex Harvey, and maybe he is there to help Sundby. Sundby's tucked in now behind Holland.
Yeah, so 3 very quick skiers in this group. Alex Harvey, of course, the 50-kilometre world champion in this freestyle technique. My goodness, the conditions on that day were very, very different from the ones they've got here.
You can tell how steep it is, the terrain, and looking back down the hill.
Now, what about Iversen, Mike? He's moved up a few positions. Last time we saw, he was a minute behind, having started 59, so he's keeping pace with the race leaders as well. 14 is Didrik Tunseth. A little bit of a comeback being staged by the Norwegian team today, and they'll be hoping to have 3 or 4 athletes in the top 10. Good skiing from Jonas Baumann. Marcus Hellner gave him a little bit of a ride at the end of that first lap. But this is the skier that we're most interested in. Dario Colonia, 3-time winner of the Tour de Ski title. Suddenly, we're starting to talk about him in terms of winning the overall Tour.
Oh, very much. For him to have broken away, I think that really makes a statement. He's happy on home snow here. He knows this track probably better than any of the rest in the field, apart from his own teammates, and they're farther behind. But this man is suffering.
Yeah, Ustiagov's looking... he never looks the neatest skier. He's got very short arm action. And the arms on the skate one, particularly a long way back. He almost plants the pole with his fist level with his ear. But that's something that Daria Domracheva's also done over time. Doesn't slow her down any.
It doesn't. Hopefully we'll get a side angle from Ustiagov when he comes past. It is quite a unique technique. Whereas Dario, just that efficiency, nothing, no wasted energy at all left to right. It's all travelling up the track.
Alex Harvey, Holland of Norway on the far side. Sundby in 3rd position in this group. Just behind them from Finland. I'm assuming that's Niskanen tucking in there. It is Niskanen, number 7. And which one of the Russians is that, Mike?
That'll be Shavotkin.
Is that Shavotkin with them, number 8? Yes, it is.
It is. And who's no man's land just ahead, of
course. That's Polteranen.
That's Polteranen.
Yeah, Polteranen survived longer than I thought. The man from Kazakhstan who's made his name, really, with some brilliant classic races throughout his career. Dario Colonia, well, it doesn't really matter what technique. 2 Olympic golds from Sochi back in 2014. On this sort of form, he might be able to take an even bigger haul this time round. And the margin from 7 seconds is going to be closer to 17. as they go through 5.8. A really significant move, and Bolshinov is closing down on his teammate.
Well, that could maybe, I mean, if Ustiakov is going through a bad phase, he is right now, but possibly Bolshinov could assist. But that's still a big gap there to bridge. 10 seconds, sounds easy, but it's such a long way on this track.
What do you think Ustiakov's thinking about at the moment?
He must be struggling with himself, thinking, right, my strategy was to live with Dario if he were to break away. He hasn't achieved that, so he's really on a plan B, which is negative. It's about survival now, and maybe to try and fight to keep Bolshinov away from catching him.
I think he's thinking about getting a decent room in Oberstdorf.
Getting there early and resting.
And having a very good 24 hours off. So Polteranen has been caught, and it's Holland who is doing the damage again. He let Harvey go in front for a while, but he realises that if he wants to get up with the top two, he has got to keep the pressure on.
Well, Holland was the man with the pace, but the pace of this pack, since Holland absorbed this pack, it's kind of slowed down, but Holland realising the responsibility lies on his shoulders to keep it fast.
And of course, Colonia is hoping that they just battle it out between themselves rather than thinking about trying to close down on the race leaders. Look at this margin. 19 seconds was it last time we saw them at 5.8. A further 600 meters on, and Colonia is still applying the pressure. Not much of a gain, but Ustiakov only closing down a second on the flat section at the top of the hill.
I think we always say, day one, the sprints, if you make it to the final, if you win the final, we saw how much Ustiakov had to dig deep and work to take that sprint title, to gain in 60 seconds, but it can catch you up later. He survived it last year, but he's looking tired this time.
But Dario Colonia won a few of the sprints when he won the Tour titles in the past, so you've got to choose which ones you're going to sacrifice, but you really do need to qualify for the first knockout round to get decent points.
I think so, or even making it into the semis, so
yeah.
Making a top 12, then at least you're rested. You're doing 3 of the sprints, and of course Petter Northug so often going all the way through to the final and surviving, but never having a good final day.
Well, Polteranen stays with the group in 5th position at the moment. Harvey is there, Holland is still leading, Sundby having a good long look over his left shoulder. I'm not sure who he's looking out for, because Colonia is a long way away down the hill, coming back down towards the stadium. Remember, the lap is 3.75 kilometres, and the crowd will be absolutely delighted to see their man leading the way, and even happier when they realise the margin is close to 20 seconds. Can Colonia keep this going? He made his break with 10,000 meters to go. That's what you call an early sprint.
You know, he's put all of his cards, his trump cards on the table. He's made the move to the front, and it's still half distance to go. We've seen Dario, he's not frightened to take the pace on. Remember Val di Fiemme, the 50-kilometer? He went out, broke away early with Johan Olsen. Then a fall kept him out. He still came back to take a medal.
Still at 18.9, so Ustiakov recovering a little over the last kilometre, 1,200 metres of easy skiing, most of it downhill.
This is becoming tactical now in the group. Holland dropping back into 3rd. I'm surprised Polteranen. Nobody wants to take the pace on, so Polteranen is the one who's had to take that on now. Sundby clearly not feeling great, otherwise he'd be up front trying to limit the damage of this gap.
It's almost as if they've accepted that Colonia and Ustiakov are going to be the 2 men fighting for the title.
As we come up to halfway further down the track, it's at 6.4. Andrew Musgrave 26th to 23rd, but he's 2:18 behind. I think he'll be disappointed. Started 1:47 behind.
Yeah, that's a big margin, and if he can gain 30 seconds or so, Mike, he still only makes his way up into 21st position.
And Magnificat, we mentioned it, how he loves these races, 24th to 12th, but his time he's still running level with Dario.
Yeah, he started 1:37, he's sitting at 1:38 at the moment.
Well, do you think the cowbells are inspiring Dario? I mean, to be racing at home, to have won yesterday. He's a man with confidence.
Four-time winner of the overall World Cup title, Dario Colonia. Well, apologies for leaving just before we saw the splits. We can tell you that going through the last split point with 5 of 8 climbs completed, that Colonia has the lead, and he's extended it to 22.9 seconds. He was only 18.9 going through the stadium at the halfway marker. So brilliant skiing from Dario Colonia. He's doing some damage to Ustiakov, who is the defending Tour champion. Bolshinov hanging on in 3rd place. So Russia in 2 and 3 at the moment. And Sunbi has taken up the responsibility of leading the chase group. But they are now over a minute behind Dario Colonia, and still some 35, 36 seconds down on Bolshinov, who's in 3rd position.
Quite amazing. Sunbi, having lost, well, just under 30 seconds, he's decided that he needs to take the chasing pack time and responsibility on.
Well, there you see the growth in the margin between Colonia and Sunbi. Obviously, the director feeling that Sunbi is a danger man in terms of the Tour title. Now, Mike, there aren't many skiers who've come down in altitude from where they live and train to race here in Lenzerheide, but Colonia is one of them.
He's a lucky man, and that makes a difference. Yes, living in Davos, coming down here, what, 200 meters lower, he's got to have had an advantage. I know the American team spent their Christmas in Seefeld, and lots of people stayed in the Alps on the snow and final preparation.
But there's a big difference between living there and going to train at altitude 2, 3, maybe even 4 times a year.
What a difference, all year round, training up there, and of course going up the mountains, ski bounding up the mountains in the summertime, cycling at high altitude.
Yeah, and Colonia taking full advantage of that today. Originally from Valmoster, living in Davos, as Mike said, great skiing around Davos. They've invested a lot in snowmaking equipment there to make sure that, 1, their local athletes can train, and 2, that they have decent conditions for the World Cup that they traditionally host pre-Christmas.
Yeah, new type of farming. They're snow farming. And what, end of October, they put the snow on the tracks there, in the forest in Davos, and lots of teams going there. I mean, it's bringing people into the town.
22.9 to 23.4 every second is absolutely crucial, because, as we know, Ustiakov is a much, much better sprinter than Dario Colonia, and we'd expect to see Ustiakov claw back a little bit of time in 2 days. What the script writers want is for Colonia and Ustiakov to be peg level going into the final day.
Very much. I'm just looking at Ustiakov. You mentioned his pacing there. The attack that he had from the gun, the attack that he had up the first climb. Yes, Dario went with him, staying a little back at times. When you've got tired legs, that hurts, and maybe he's gone through that hurt phase, and he seems to be surviving now at a level pace behind Dario.
The chase group were 105 behind last time we saw. Now it's 103, so Harvey and Sunbi are starting to apply the pressure. Sunbi did quite a lot of work on the last climb, Mike. Sensible just to tuck in behind Harvey for a while.
I think so. Sharing the lead here will keep this group faster. Everybody knows that, if anyone's willing to take the pace on. But for Dario Colonia, work is all about him and the clock. Of course, this is Colonia coming through at 10.2.
Yep, so 4.8 kilometers still to go, and crucially 2 big climbs still to go. That is where Colonia has been hurting Ustiakov. Ustiakov still traveling a little bit faster on the flats and the downhills, so that's limiting the margins. How good must this feel in front of your own fans? The Swiss really, really enjoying this occasion, and they deserve it. It's been a long time. I mean, Colonia has been one of the top skiers in the world. I mean, there was a time you thought he was the best ever, Mike. I don't know whether you still feel that.
I'm thinking if he had the backup, you know, again, if you have the backup, if you're Norwegian, I think it's easier to win more World Cup victories. But I think Dario in 23 and possibly 24 today, it's still very good racing.
The pace has slowed again in the chase group. This is Alexei Shavotkin out front. Alex Harvey has done a kilometre or so, but he's handed over the responsibility. Holland and Sunbi side by side. And the way we know that the pace is slower is because Polteranin's still in there with the chase group. There he is wearing 4.
Just thinking of Dario as well, when you look at Cologne at major championships, at the Olympic Games, 3 straight golds. Of course, his relay, he'd have more if he was in a better relay team. But 3 golds from Vancouver, 2 from Sochi, 1 from Vancouver.
Marcus Hellner. And no surprise to see Maurice Magnificat in there. We'll try and give you a split on Magnificat. Remember, he started 1:37 off the race leader, Sergei Ustiagov. And we'll do that after we see what the split is between Cologne and Ustiagov. Our last split point gave us 23.4, and with each one, Cologne is opening up just a couple of seconds, but we're going to see if Ustiagov's managed to descend faster yet again, showing that he's got decent ski speed. He has, so he's clawed back only a second and a half, but that's significant.
Now, you mentioned Magnificat. Magnificat, he's gone from 24th to 11th now, and he's gained 5 seconds only track time off Cologne. So at the moment, he is the fastest. Dario second fastest.
I suspect he's being given splits on Cologne, and most of Magnificat's victories have come, his World Cup victories have come in this format of racing.
At 10 kilometers, Bjornsson 25th to 28th, Andrew Musgrave 26th, he's now dropped to 30th. That's a pity, at 2:31 behind.
Well, slightly disappointing news for British fans. Andrew Musgrave struggling with the pace out there. He went very, very hard on the first lap. And this course is deceptively hard. We can see the hills, but we can't feel the altitude, the lack of oxygen in the air. And yesterday we saw it time and time again with people taking the first lap too hard and then really struggling later on. I suspect that might be what's happened with Musgrave. Could also be a ski issue. We're not to know until the end of the race. We'll have a chat with Roy Young and find out.
Yes, could be, but you would think most technicians able to get them to a fairly even keel with the best or the rest of the best.
The penultimate climb, has Cologne managed to push the gap to 25? Going through the stadium last time round, just 22 seconds between Cologne and the chaser Ustiagov.
Ustiagov, he's got this ability, even when he's so tired, to dig that little bit deeper, and I think he's trying to find something, and maybe it's not there. Well, it's there by 1 second.
Yeah, he's clawed back another second, but the last hill is steeper and longer. I suspect that might rise to 22-23.
Good to see the track. I think the toughness of this track is whereby we've got longer climbs here than say we have in Davos or many other tracks. It's a little bit like the track in Lillehammer, these long, horribly tough climbs.
Bolshunov's had a long, lonely ski. He's seen no one. He can probably hear this group of skiers behind him, and he can certainly hear the shouts and the cheers as they go past. But all credit to Bolshunov. Remember, he is one of the under-23 athletes. He's only just 21, for goodness sake. And there he is, holding that margin at 39 seconds. He's still got a fairly comfortable cushion between himself and 4th place. Holand back in charge with the chase group. Shavotkin's been on his shoulder for the last 500 metres or so. Harvey, Sundby, Polteran and Niskanen, they're still all together, a strong group of 6. And this, of course, is the chase group now. There's the margin, and Magnificat is travelling faster than anyone else out there once again.
He just loves these pursuit competitions. Of course, his track speed is good here today, and over the years, so many times it has been. I think he's got 9 victories.
Pellegrino in this 3rd chase group wearing the black bib, not because he won the sprint on day 1, but Ustiagov is in the red bib as the tour leader, so Pellegrino gets the honour of wearing the black bib for a day. Not sure whether he gets the money involved. 1,000 Swiss francs for wearing red, and it looks as though Dario Cologne is going to be receiving that on Wednesday.
I wonder if Dario's been given the information that Magnificat has pulled only 3 seconds. It's from the start of the race back on him, therefore the fastest on the track time today.
As you said, Mike, Ustiakov can look as though he's ready to lie down in a 6-foot box, but still he can cover the ground at a phenomenal speed. Dario Colonia still looks very composed. His core strength is so impressive, and that sort of keeps the whole body under control, even when you're at your limit.
I love the little flick there at the end of each stride, just to get good from the knee to the final extension of the leg. He gets a huge amount of force through there, as do most of the top skiers.
Yeah, that's really the difference between a World Cup skier and a club skier, isn't it? The club skier's leg action is very passive.
It is. You need that final force. I'm thinking Sumbi must be going through a world of pain in his mind as well, because of the last 6 years, in any pack racing, he'd be at the front and destroying most of them. At the moment, he's surviving. It's not far up to Bolshinov. They can see him. They've seen him all the race, and there's Ustiakov further up.
And they might even get a glimpse of Dario Colonia, but all that's telling them is they've got a long, long way to climb before they can enjoy a little bit of downhill again. Holand's up the pace, Mike. We need to keep an eye on him. The bookies only thought he was 40-1 to produce the fastest time, but he looked good yesterday. He's kept that form going today. I think he might have produced a faster time if he hadn't come across the traffic in front of him.
Yes, possibly. If he was out there on his own, he's now taking on the hard work again. I think Polterainen will be happy with classic sprint races coming up in 2 days' time after a day's rest.
Back up goes the gap from 21 to 22.8. And Ustiakov is consistently faster on the downhills, as we've seen, so he may get that margin down to something around 20 seconds. Still a handy lead for Dario Colonia, and then of course Colonia will get a bonus 5 seconds over Ustiakov, because he'll get 15, Ustiakov will get 10, and it looks as though Bolshinov's going to be able to hang on to 3rd place and gain himself 5 bonus seconds.
You just get a feeling, Patrick, that Sundby is thinking, I want 5 seconds. I don't want Bolshinov to get it, but that's quite a big gap. It's still, what, we've got 12 seconds with 1.7 kilometers.
1.7, most of it downhill. I don't think that is going to happen, but having said that, we saw the Finns close down a gap of, what, 7-8 seconds on the same section this morning. 23, haven't seen too much of Danny Rickardson leading this group, and he's got Marcus Helmer, his teammate, tucked in behind him. Number 24, that's Maurice Magnificat, who still has the fastest time out on the tracks, but he's looking tired at the moment, and so he should do. 1:32.5 behind for Maurice Magnificat, and that puts him just 3 seconds quicker than Dario Colonia. He's still got it all to fight for if he wants to produce the fastest time today. Teresa Stadlober, the fastest on the women's course this morning, over 10K.
Well done, Dario. What a fight there to take most of this race on all by yourself, out the front. Everybody there trying to close you down.
The next stage of the tour on the 3rd of January is a sprint in classic style. Ustiakov certainly superior in that, and then we've got another freestyle mass start over 15K, so they do it all again in Oberstdorf, but maybe the advantage of altitude won't be with him. Oberstdorf at about 800, 850 meters.
Yeah, you feel it, but it's not as noticeable as, say, 1400 as we are here. I was just looking at Sumbi. He believes, I think, that he can bridge the gap to Bolshinov. It's down to less than 10 seconds.
But he's now got less than 1,000 meters to run, and he's not going to gain much on the downhill section. This corner providing a few issues yesterday, but they've worked hard on the tracks as Dario Colonia drives down towards the finish, and of course enjoying the fans. What a performance he's put on today. He made his break with over 10 kilometers to go, and he's just kept the pressure on all the way through to the end. No chance for Ustiakov now. It's going to be Dario Colonia in the red bib as the new Tour leader. Is he heading for Tour win number 4? Well, we've still got 4 stages to go to find out, but my goodness, he's made his intentions pretty clear.
He certainly has, and what a race, and especially doing that in Lenzerheide and back home.
It's been a good finish from Ustiakov. He's got it down to less than 20. That was a fabulous descent from Ustiakov. Remember, he was 22.5 seconds behind at the top of the hill, so he's pushed hard, got good skis. Maybe Colonia will rue that come the end of the week. We'll have to wait around to find out. And what about Bolshinov trying to hold on to third place? The charge, believe it or not, is coming from Alexei Poltaran in number 4. Alex Harvey on the left of your screen. He could get into 4th place, but it's going to be Bolshinov who gets 3rd. Harvey takes 4. We've got Poltaran in 5, and then Sundby and Holland down in 7. Holland started 10, but he really did all the work in that chase group, so congratulations to him. He's produced a very quick time today, but it's Dario Colonia who takes the win and the red bib. What a tour this is turning out to be as we have a look at the second chase group coming in, and was that Marcus Hellner involved? It was. He gets 10th. Bing in 11th, the best of the Germans out there. Bing traditionally does pretty well, generally finishes top 15 in the Tour de Ski. Colonia is back in business.
And he's doing the calculations, another 15 seconds for winning. Of course, Ustiakov gets 10 for coming second.
So the margin around, very roughly, at 20 seconds, but it's going to be just over 22 and a half.
22 and a half, 23 maybe.
Is it going to be enough? Remember, big bonuses for winning the sprint, and I suspect that with 48 hours before the start of the sprint in Oberstdorf, that Ustiakov is going to be able to get himself back together.
Yes, he is recovery man. I'm surprised that Dario slowed down. Yes, everyone, the packs behind them were pushing to get the positions, but Dario effectively slowed down in the last just the last kilometre.
What a way to start your year with a win in on home snow. Is that Muzzy coming in? It was. Musgrave back to 24th. He was outside the top 30 at one stage, so he's had a good last loop, Musgrave. 2:21 though the margin, having started today 1:47 behind. And last year, after 3 stages, Musgrave was sitting in 7th position, 2 minutes 1 second behind. So things haven't really gone his way. And he was just a little bit unlucky not to get through to the semi-finals of the sprint on day 1.
Yes, so a day's rest, that'll help everybody, of course. And then the sprints in Oberstdorf.
Yaki Mushkin of Russia, finishing with bib number 31. That has to be the best name on the start sheet. Just ahead of his teammate Vitsenko, and losing a lot of ground today. Jonas Baumann started well, but really lost the plot on the last 3.75 kilometre loop.
I think we'll see Baumann strong, or very strong, in Oberstdorf. He's more a sprinter than a distance athlete.
Next of the Germans to cross the line is Eisenlauer ahead of Dobler and Katz. Those 3 skiing together in today's race, as they do in training all the time. 48 is Tamjärvi of Estonia. He's gained a few places, 9 places gained for the day. Can't be too disappointed with that. Rota and Skor, on the other hand, would expect to be in the top 15 of the Tour at the end of stage 3, but they're a long, long way adrift. Now, is this a Swiss sandwich or a Russian sandwich? I think it's a gruyere one with Dario Colonia in the middle, and he's got the experience of Ustiakov on his right, and the power and the youth of Bolshinov on his left. Finnhagen Krog of Norway across the line, down in 46. Time to send some emails to Norway to find out what they think of the way things are going. Not so much about the tour, but are things going as planned in terms of their preparation for the Olympics?
I think there's a lot of concern. Certainly, they love their cross-country skiing. The newspaper's still full of debate and still a little angry that Petter Northug was not involved in these 7 races and over the 9-day period. They wanted him here because he's the man really who can finish races. He's got that sprint. He's the man, and his history proves it, that he can win major championships. And they only want medals, gold, from the Olympics.
And if you don't have a good sprint, you're not going to win any of the mass start races at the Olympic Games or even in the World Cup. It is so difficult to break the field nowadays.
And look at this.
You need a sprint.
Yeah, and day 3 of racing here, we've only got 2 Norwegians in the top 15. I don't think we've seen that since the Tour started 12 years ago. So few in that top bracket. And soon be 48 seconds behind. Of course, that'll extend when Dario gets his plus 15 seconds.
All right, Dario, first win yesterday since January 2015, now 2 in a row here in Switzerland. It looked like one of those days that you kind of really enjoy as an athlete, when you can ski away, find your pace, and ski to a win.
Yeah, definitely. It was an amazing day already yesterday. Today, even better. I didn't plan to go already second loop, but yeah, I feel very good, and it was amazing with the crowd again here, the home crowd. It gave so much energy. Last loop was very tough. Sergey came back strong, but I was just pushing and I really want this win, and yeah, it was one of these amazing days.
All right, well, congrats. You have the Tour lead heading into the rest day here, and congrats also on 2 wins in a row.
Thank you very much.
The victory goes to the man or woman who wants it most, and Dario Colonia wanted it badly today. Interesting to hear he hadn't planned. I don't think that surprises us that he hadn't planned to go with 10 kilometers remaining.
He hadn't expected it. He hadn't expected that he had to take the responsibility on.
But 2 wins in 2 days for Dario Colonia. He's the new Tour leader. So a day off tomorrow for the cross-country skiers. They'll make their way to Oberstdorf tonight, and then they'll be back in action on Wednesday. It's a classic sprint, as we mentioned, and Colonia is just going to have to try and hang on in there. Ustiakov will be doing everything he can to recover in time. Maybe it will be Bolshunov's day to make a move.
Maybe, but you know, when you look at it, 3 days gone from 7 days racing, and at the moment it's looking pretty good for Switzerland, because Dario is also a sprinter, he's a good climber, and he's the man on form.
And only 22 seconds between the top 2. Bolshunov some 50 seconds adrift. Well, there's plenty of ski jumping to come. We had the qualification in Garmisch yesterday. We have round 2 of the 4 hills coming up with David Goldstrom and Kamil Stoch of Poland trying to make it 2 in a row. But maybe it will be Freitag's day.